Dun, 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 dun. I was so excited to do that, actually. Welcome, everybody who definitely isn't watching this. I'm here with my boy Justin and Ned Stark. Well, actually, we could just call you Ned Stark for this episode. We should just call you that. I mean, you do have Longclaw on you right now too, so you do have that Stark name in you. There it is. Ned has all his gear on right now. He's got his Nightwatch shirt.
Yep.
Ned Snow. So guys, what we're gonna do today, because Mike is recording, I kind of asked him if we could do this Game of Thrones special that we've been talking about for a little bit here. So I've been looking forward to this, guys. Have you?
Oh yeah. Oh, I've been looking forward to this. This has been an idea we've tossed around for a number of weeks now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of here just as the casual guy. I know you guys like read all the books and stuff. I'm not like super duper into Game of Thrones, but I'll be here just to give the casual person's viewpoint.
Okay, so
and
it's
we
like
should thank Mike. We should thank Mike too for allowing us the opportunity to do this.
Definitely.
On the Kirk Minahan Network. So it's very much
brought to you by the Kirk Minahan Network. Thank you so much, and thanks to Mike. I know this was a little point of contention in the past about we wanted to do this, but I think it was kind of mistaken, and I'm glad we actually ended up getting to do it. So guys, what we're going to do is we're going to be basically breaking down the books. So this is more of like an Ice and Fire type show.
Must read.
What's that?
It's must read, not must see.
Yeah, but today it's called Must Read.
Must read.
Needs to read them.
So we're going to be breaking down Song of Ice and Fire. So for those people who didn't read the books, this will be good because what we want to do is show you the difference between especially with this episode, we want to show you the differences between the books, the show, where the show left or picked up where the show or where the books left off. So what I'm going to do basically is we're going to start off by just kind of listing our top 5 kind of things that's missing from the show as compared to the books from where they took off.
Because the books aren't finished yet, correct?
Correct.
So
correct.
Was it season 4 or 5 the TV show caught up with the books?
So Ned, you kind of want to break down for people what happened here?
Sure. And I should say from the get-go that I was that asshole that was watching Game of Thrones on HBO with you guys telling you this isn't as good as the books. Oh, they skipped this. Oh, or you better watch out what's going to happen next. I was that dick. Mm-hmm. Justin. So there are going to be 6 full books in the series. And he's only completed 5. Actually, I'm sorry, I think it'll be 7 books. He's only completed 5. So they kind of matches up to the season 5, but really they extended into almost season 6. And if you remember when you watched the show, whatever complaints you had with the show before then, it was nothing compared to what happened afterwards, when you can literally see they sped up the pace of the show from season 6, 7, and 8, massively eliminating characters that are still alive in the books. Just to get to the end of the series, so those 2 dickheads could go do Star Wars.
Whatever the hell they wanted to do.
And they fucked it up so bad they got fired from doing Star Wars. So,
Another main point to talk about is that the show actually signed for a certain amount of episodes. I believe the total amount of episodes was 70 or 80 total episodes. So they kind of, like you said, had to rush to get it done. But I think by the time season 6 rolled around, they were sick of the show. I think Dan and Dan kind of lost interest in Game of Thrones. Everything.
I think they had other opportunities, to do the Star Wars, but HBO was literally throwing money and episodes at them to extend it out. If they needed, 3 more episodes per year, they'd get the budget. And HBO is notoriously cheap. If you remember, The Sopranos used to go on. The cast of The Sopranos would take not go on strike, but they get into contract negotiations which delayed seasons. So HBO is not really good at paying, and if they're going to throw money at something, it means they believe in it. And even George R.R. Martin felt that the series could have been extended by a few more episodes to kind of give it more of the pace that it had previously, and they wouldn't have had to rush this in this ending.
So the 2 books that haven't been released yet are Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring. So those will basically be covering what you saw in season. I believe the last scene you see in the books for Daenerys is her taking off on Drogon, and then she lands and she's in the Dothraki Sea. Right. And the last thing you see for Jon is he's still dead. So spoiler alert, Jon Snow is still dead. And we don't know if he is resurrected in the books yet. So that kind of gives you, with those 2 stories where we are with that. Now, that's where the show was picked up by the Game of Thrones writers, where we saw a huge skew. Now, did you guys hate the last couple seasons before we get into what the differences we saw?
Justin?
I didn't mind them. So I was really big into, I think it was 10th or 11th grade. It was before like the whole Game of Thrones like blew up. I think it was like on season 2 or 3. I started watching it, and because I got season 1 on a DVD box set. This was before HBO Go and everything. And I remember my dad walking in on me watching it, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" Because of course it was like a sex scene or something. And some guy was in like some gay brothel doing something, and I'm like, "No, it's actually a really good show." And he's like, "Oh, who are those people fucking right there?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're kind of siblings and stuff." And it was really like, fuck.
Don't worry, Dad. They're brother and sister.
So
it's not porn, Dad. It's HBO.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the first couple of seasons were very, very good. Like I said, I never read the books. I heard that the first season is pretty much like the first book, like almost to a T. But the last couple seasons, I don't think it ended spectacularly. But like I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like it didn't need, like, there was no motivation for them to end it. Like they just wanted to end it. Just because they're like, okay, well, if this last season is trash, people are still going to watch it. People are still going to have all the hype around it. Or if it's the greatest season yet, it's like, well, what does that really do? Because there's so much you couldn't reach a bigger level of hype than Game of Thrones had at its peak.
Correct.
Oh yeah, you really couldn't. I mean, it was a worldwide phenomenon, and honestly,
go ahead.
I
think that was kind of like the last TV show that I can remember right now. Maybe Rick and Morty. To have like watch parties, like I know people would have like Game of Thrones watch parties, and like I never participated in one of those, but I know that seems like watch parties just sounds like such an old like '90s thing, like everyone come over and but like people were still doing it with Game of Thrones because it had such like a hardcore community and stuff.
I said this the other day actually, like my parents back in the day had watch parties for Sopranos, and I would go as a younger kid, and that was when HBO had one channel and it was free for everybody, and I finished off by having watch parties for Game of Thrones. I think that was
you were paying, so it was free.
Well, they were paying. It was free for me. Yeah, I guess you're right. But it was just one channel. It was back in the day, but like they did that with their friends, and that was a huge thing about Game of Thrones. Like me and all my friends got together and watched it, and we didn't start it until everybody was there. Like it was something like that. Ned, how did you take the last couple seasons post George material?
Not well, because I didn't like the. I was already disgruntled that they cut out a lot of major characters, storylines, story arcs. They didn't go into depth on some of the character development. So when they just started racing to the end, I think the casual viewer was like, wow, it's really great now because it's like lots of action. But the action really didn't make a lot of sense to me. Maybe also because I knew the books, but also like, wait, how can Varys and Littlefinger fly around the Seven Kingdoms and fly around Westeros, which is huge and takes weeks and months to travel around in the books. They're doing it in like the same episode.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense. And the shortcuts were way too obvious.
Yeah, that was a big thing a lot of people brought up is the timelines and that kind of stuff. The Daenerys, how the hell did she get up past the wall and blah, blah, blah. And all that kind of stuff was a big thing. I didn't mind the last couple of seasons. I always look at it like this. Listen, we're going to get George's story, hopefully no matter what. So there's our story we want.
Right.
The Dan and Dan's story is kind of like a B path. Yeah, we got it. It's over. It sucks it wasn't as good as we wanted it to be, but granted, it brought us here. It brought us all together. But it kind of sucked that it didn't turn out.
Did you read the books first, or did you
I
watch
read the
show
book after season 2. I started reading the books.
Okay.
And then since then I've read the books about 13 times, man. I swear to God, I'm up around like 13, 14. I listen to the books, so they're great to listen to because Roy Dotrice does them. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records for most voices because of the books. Roy Dotrice is actually the guy who played the Pyromancer and the Grand Pyromancer in what's it called? That gives them all the wildfire. King's Landing. Yeah, that's actually the guy who reads the books. Which is pretty cool. He actually died of cancer. He's the man though. So all of George's books, he always had him reading. So, so let's do this. Let's break down what we missed from book to season. Basically, we're going for A Feast of Crows and
Dance of Dragons.
And Dance of Dragons. So Ned, give me your top thing that you missed from the books.
Well, for those that didn't read the books but saw the show, the books 4 and 5, Feast of Crows and Dance with Dragons, were originally written as one book. but it would have been a massive amount of pages. So what the publishers and
also they can charge it for 2 books.
well, that's true too, but it was so
That's
big
true.
though that is true. But it was, the books, like the Harry Potter books, got larger and larger and
Yeah.
larger as it progressed through.
Mhm.
So the last book, from what the story was it was so big that it would be just too much. So George decided to break it down as 2 concurrent stories and move the characters, that what's going on in Essos with Daenerys and in King's Landing, and then what was going on with Jon north of the Wall and Sansa on her path up, to
with a small little sprinkling of Arya in there too, over in Bravo.
Right, with Arya being trained as a faceless
yeah.
man in Bravos, but there was no Tyrion in the 4th book.
Mhm.
It was I don't think there was even Jon Snow in the 4th book. So
Fourth
there were a
book
lot of
is
characters were
mostly-
missing.
4th book is mostly Sansa, Arya, Brienne,
Correct.
and lately, yeah, and
Dorne.
I think a little bit of Dorne. Yeah, Dorne
Dorne.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Which they pretty much
Cersei too.
So right, and Cersei's descent into madness, and that's the difference too. Is and it's very difficult to do, and I understand. But one of the things you lose on the TV show is a lot of what you know from the characters. You're reading from a point of view of them, so you're hearing their thoughts. You're not necessarily listening to their words. So Cersei's descent into madness, for example, which she goes fucking nuts, right?
She goes insane.
Yeah, but you hear it happening in her head, and her actions kind of justify what she's responding to in her head. In the show, it's just like, oh, she's a fucking idiot, and she's it doesn't make any sense. In the book, it kind of makes sense. Same thing with Jon, same thing with Tyrion, same thing with all of the characters.
I love that style of writing.
Yes.
It's tough to listen to books now without that style of writing because of Game of Thrones. Like, it's tough to just have the narrator. Like, whereas the Game of Thrones books kind of gave you that perspective here, and then you could go back in time and listen to it from this person's perspective. You know?
Correct. You get a completely different view of the same incident from 2 different point of view characters when they're discussing the same thing. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So my biggest difference though was the show cut out, or actually treated Dorne shittily, because I think Dorne in the books is pretty interesting, and they combined too
Dorne
many
is
characters.
my favorite. Dorne is my favorite. It is my favorite. Part of Westeros is the Martells are one of my favorite family. They butchered the Martell story.
Yes.
They butchered it.
Yeah, they took out Ariana, the daughter, who's not even in the books. They changed the character of the Sand Snake's mother, one of the mothers, because they're all mothered by, they have different mothers, but they made her evil, and in the book, she's actually the only sane one who's like kind of like, hey, we're not going to go to war with the Lannisters. This is a bad mistake. And the Sand Snakes were all very different personalities.
Well, there's
very
about
different
7
looks.
of them. There's about 7 of them in the books, right? I think there's
Correct.
7 Sand Snakes.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's 7.
And there's one in the Citadel, right? Who's masquerading as a boy. But one was the daughter of a septa, one was the daughter of a prostitute, one was the daughter of something. I mean, it was really very cool, very distinct characters with distinct personalities. They just made those 3 twats that looked the same.
Yeah. Even though they were hot as shit in the book, in the show.
I thought the books they sounded much better. But the main character is the daughter. It was the daughter of Dorian Martell, who he kind of puts all his faith in, as well as his son, who's never in the show. His son is going off to find Daenerys and try to marry her, even though it's a pointless exercise. But it's a good read. A lot of people who are critical of the books hate that arc with the Martell going to try to find and marry Daenerys, because it's not going to happen. But I thought it was quite good. But there was a lot of things that I missed from. I think Brienne's character development on the show was awful. I like it much better in the books. In the books, she's a 16-year-old girl who's just huge. Yeah. She's just a big, insecure, but good-hearted. She's a true knight. She really is the purest heart of all the knights that are out there that are depicted in the book. And they kind of made her more flippant, and they have her fight the Hound, and that shit didn't happen. I mean, she beat everyone she fought. And
she did. Yeah, she did. She's just as awesome as a character in the books, I would say, as compared to the show. It's just like they kind of like, here's the thing I think the show had a problem with as compared to the books. The show lost its vision of the fact that Game of Thrones was historically known before the skew of not going by what people thought was going to happen. There was no black and white. There was only gray.
Right.
And it kind of got to the point where they were going on Twitter, seeing what people wanted to see, and did what they wanted to see. I mean, by the
Correct.
point-
I think
By
there
the
was a lot of
time-
fan service. In
I think
the,
there's a lot of. I think
a
you're
lot of fan
And-
service. My girlfriend is freaking out.
The lady from Scranton, she agrees. Yeah,
It was
She's
funny.
not a
Um,
great-
I guarantee you. Yeah.
I hate to compare the two, but when John, you were talking to Ned and you said, well, when George stopped writing it, I'm not a huge Game of Thrones person, but everyone knows I am a huge Star Wars person.
Right.
So when you said when George stopped getting involved, I feel the exact same way.
Sure.
Oh, wait,
And so
like
I
about
think
Star Wars,
George
yeah.
Lucas, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
when I'm watching the sequels, I can see it like, even if you like the TV show, you're like, okay, but this isn't his vision. This isn't George R.R. Martin's world, which is really what A Song of Fire and Ice is. It's his world. Like he has the final say. So when it goes off and like, oh, we really don't know if this is what he would have done, it's kind of like, yeah, but it's kind of like fan fiction at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, and the problem is that at least what we've read, and John, you know this as well, that he gave the creators, Benioff and Weiss, the outline of where the story was going to end, not how it got there, but where it's going to end.
How it ends. Yep.
Well, if that's the case, I hope he's rewriting furiously. Right now. I don't want
Honestly, I
fucking
think
Bran.
he did that. I think that's like George's
I think
mind,
so too.
because like he has the potential to change it now. I mean, he kind of used the show as his test dummy, and that's why he didn't take part in the writing of the later shows.
I know HBO got pissed at him at one point because wasn't he saying like, yeah, torrent the show?
Well, he
like,
was taking no
pirate the
part
show?
in the show.
Yep.
He was taking no part in the show, not
He has
going
to
to
finish
any,
his fucking
any
books.
events because he has to finish the books. But
Have you
yeah,
ever seen the
so-
theory that the Game of Thrones books only come out when the Jets are doing good?
And they never come
I
out.
actually
He's
have
a
seen
huge.
that stuff.
So George R. R.
Yeah,
Martin
he's
is
a
a huge
Giants
Jet.
Yeah,
I thought
he's he's a Giants fan. That's why in the books you see him smashing. The Giant is smashing a guy, and on his shield he has a star, and it's supposed to represent
The Cowboys.
Well,
the Cowboys.
in the books,
Yeah.
Tyrion is told of when he's over in Essos, trying to work his way towards Marine to find Dany. He's told of a story of a Triarch named Belichekio. who was killed by giants in the book. It's like Belichekio was the last great Triarch of whatever the city was, Volantis.
I love
He was
that.
killed by giants.
I listened to a lot of podcasts of like hidden George stuff in there, and it's cool. It's cool, all the hidden stuff. But let's do this. Let's get back to differences we saw. I would say the main miss, and I don't know if they did this because of, I know Dan and Dan just hate the magic of the world.
Yes.
But I think
a little
the
strange.
biggest miss is Lady Stoneheart. I mean, Lady Stoneheart is potentially the coolest thing that's going to be happening in the next book. The book 4 ends with you seeing Lady Stoneheart walking up to Brienne and Podrick, who are getting hung. And that's kind of the last you hear of her. You do hear of her one other time.
Yeah. There's one more time.
But Lady Stoneheart is a thing that is just missed.
Brienne, the last you hear of Jaime and Brienne, from Jaime's point of view, is Brienne in his last chapter shows up in his camp and says, what is she has to lure him away. Remember, she and Pod and the other knight that was with them, whose name slipped my mind, were about to be hung unless they gave up Jaime Lannister. And she wouldn't do it until she saw Pod's feet dangling in the book. Pod has already been hung and he's choking. And she goes, she says like, mercy or something. And she gets cut down. The next point of view chapter of A Feast of Crows is Jaime's last chapter. And Brienne shows up just briefly, like a paragraph. I've found something or someone. You need to come with me. You alone.
Yep.
And they were leaving to go find it. And then it's related later on in Cersei's point of view chapter that she heard her brothers chasing a phantom with.
That's another thing.
The Maid of Tar.
Jaime isn't even back in Westeros or in King's Landing yet in the books.
Nope.
Jaime is kind of isn't even back yet.
But John, I think you brought up something really good though. The lack of magic overall, and I think it was a budgetary issue as opposed to maybe because in the books the dragons are important. The dire wolves are even more important. And in the books, there's only 2 that are dead. In the show, everyone's dead except Ghost and Nymeria.
Yep.
We haven't heard from the baby brother Rick and what the hell is his name? What was the name of his wolf? I forgot. But they,
Rickon's wolf. Shit, Jesus.
Shaggy Dog. No.
Shaggy Dog. Yeah, Shaggy Dog.
So they're gone to Skagos from what we understand, but the wolves are very important, and they're kind of cut out. And I mean, the first 2 seasons, it was actually pretty cool. I like what they did, but the dragons weren't anything to spend money on. All of a sudden, the dragons took all of the budget.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean,
yeah. I think that's another problem I saw with the show is, as compared to the books, is like the show in the beginning, because they were going by the books, was very magic based. I mean, they had the lady that talks to Daenerys randomly that shows up with the mask on. Like that was never explained. That kind of stuff was never explained. They got into it a little bit with the Children of the Forest, and then they kind of just ruined their story.
Correct.
Even the Green Seers, Jojen Reed, like that kind of magic stuff was just thrown, pitched, and missed. It was that kind of stuff that pissed me off.
Or cut out completely.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that really aggravated me. And that brings me to my next point is the story of the White Walkers and the Night King. That was another just swing and a miss on the last season. I mean, what do the White Walkers even mean? So basically what you're saying is this whole time, all those symbols they left, what's their backstory? They were just zombies?
Right.
There was just a Walking Dead story?
Yeah, you know
what?
what?
Was their purpose?
I think they did that, which is so stupid. I think they did that because isn't there like a prequel series in the works for HBO?
Yes, there was.
Well, there's 2 prequel series in the works right now. One deals with
which is so stupid. It's like instead of just like explaining it, they're like, well, we could get 5 more seasons and 5 more, even if it's kind of like half the hype. They're still making money hand over fist.
Yeah, so one of the prequels deals with the Doom of Valeria. So that would be basically, it's called Empire of Ash. They don't know if that one's actually going to come out, but the Doom of Valeria would be something awesome to see because that's a whole different world back then. I mean, dragons were everywhere. Valeria was a country run by people like the Targaryens, and
it's still a mystery as to how it disappeared.
And it's exactly so that would be awesome to see. And then the other one is the Dance of the Dragons, House of the Dragons. So that would deal mostly in straight Targaryen. Monarchy, which would be also awesome to see because we would get to see the Dance of the Dragons. We would get to see Aegon conquering, which would be fucking amazing.
I think the one that the one they actually cast and budgeted for and then canceled after the.
That was the Long Night, the prequel.
That was a Long Night. That was going to be the Starks. It was going to take place up in the north. But
another one they were going to do was the Age of Heroes, which was back in the day.
Right.
So that too would have been cool. I think we have a world where it comes to Game of Thrones where it's built out to, I think for the rest of our lives, we're going to have stuff come out, let alone we might see a full reboot of the actual Ice and Fire series. By the time in 20 years, something like that.
That might happen. Yeah. How many attempts
so cool.
How many attempts at the Ring trilogy did they do till they finally get the good one, which the Peter Jackson's was perfect, right?
Yeah. Well, I
mean, done 3 or 4 versions before that. But Justin, for you to understand too, since you didn't read the books, at the end of the books, Jon Snow, before he gets stabbed, he's heading to Hardhome to rescue those people that I think in season 7, the Battle of Hardhome, that was a fantastic scene that hasn't happened in the books.
Hardhome in the books was only depicted as a letter to the wall.
Correct.
That was one of the coolest letters then turned into Hardhome is one of my favorite episodes by far. Hardhome just to see that was the first time you saw the White Walkers' power, in mass.
Right.
But you got to see the actual strength. Yeah.
In the books, the Night Watch hears of a group of wildlings led by a woodswoman, a witch, who's got about a couple of hundred wildlings trapped at Hardhome, which is a port on the bay on the eastern side of actually it's right here. So Jon decides to lead a group of rangers against the better judgment of his brothers, also with some wildlings with Tormund Giantsbane as well, to go rescue these people. That's when Jon gets stabbed. He receives a letter called the Pink Letter. So he receives a letter from Ramsay Bolton, the Lord of Winterfell, saying, I want my wife back because Theon took off with Sansa, although in the book it's Arya. He wants Mance Rayder. Mance Rayder's still alive, by the way, in the books. He wants Mance Rayder's baby back. It just incites Jon to go down and break his vows and go and attack Winterfell. So that's where we're at now. Is Jon gets and instead Jon gets stabbed.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Instead, he gets stabbed. Exactly. And
the
another
Battle of
thing
Hardhome
where
never happens in the books.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's not that it never happens; it's never depicted. So it's never. It's all it's known that is known of it is the fact that it was a massacre, and that's all they really know. It's like broken letters were sent because all that was sent was really like a maester writing, ravens to the wall, and whatever made it. Because, and that's what was great about Hardhome, the episode, because it just showed how it was just a fucking blitzkrieg to that place. Granted, we know the fact that John and them weren't there, and they kind of Hardhome is an example. The episode is an example of the show did it the right way.
Yes,
they did it the right way. Another thing where we're at in the books is Stannis is still alive. So he's about to attack Winterfell. The Battle of the Bastards really is about to happen in the books with Stannis still alive. And John basically was supposed to be heading down from the wall. So that's another cool dynamic that we still have in the books, because Stannis is a much different character in the books.
Correct.
Much different.
Yep.
He would have never burnt his daughter, I don't think, in the books.
Yeah. And Justin, in the show, do you remember the character of Ramsay Bolton?
I do.
The one who kills John, the one who kills Robb, right?
Yes.
So he, in the books at this point, he is the uneasy Lord of the North, Warden of the North, and his seat is Winterfell, and he's given, I'm sorry, it was Roose Bolton, and he's given Ramsay, his bastard son, the Dreadfort for now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got an alliance, an uneasy alliance of Northern and Riverland houses and Freys in Winterfell in a terrible winter. Snows are like just coming down, and they're all beginning to turn on each other inside Winterfell. And he finally directs them, let's go fight Stannis. But he sends out Manderleys and he sends out Freys, who hate each other, to go first, and he holds back his people, which is what he's done through all the books. Is that's how he fights his battles. He lets other families fight while he commands. Yeah. So he loses the least amount of men. So that's what John is saying. That's what's going on right now. Is the forces of Winterfell are heading to fight Stannis, who's trying to take back Winterfell for the North.
Yes.
We got to get this FOMO guy in the comments. I mean, instead of me, this guy knows everything.
We blatantly know who it is. It's Blind Advocate. I invited him on
Oh,
the
it's
show.
EA?
Oh, I have no idea.
No, not Blind or Barstool Advisor. It's Blind Advocate.
I know Ramsay didn't kill Robb.
I was going to say, we got to get this guy on here.
Buddy, send us your. We'll gladly have you on here to teach us all the lessons. But let's hop over to this. We wanted to any last things you saw that were blatant misses, or just missed out.
Can I just say something real quick?
Go ahead.
One of the things, I know you guys talked about how there was a Belichickian person or whatever in the books, but one of the things that really loses it for me in the TV shows is when you have things like an Aaron Rodgers cameo, where it's just
it's just another thing. It was
it's just like, what the fuck is Aaron? Okay, we get it. Like, Aaron Rodgers is there. Like, that's cool for 2 seconds, but it's also kind of stupid when you look at
famous for that stuff.
Where it's just
the same with it's the same with Westworld. Like Westworld, they'll just like think it's cool to throw in a character where we like HBO because you just give us brand new actors and make fucking stars out of them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we like. We don't like and that's I always compare this to like DC versus Marvel. Like, DC tries to throw you Justice League and just puts these big names in there and think they don't need a story, they just need the big names, and then you get nothing out of it. And it's just HBO has famously done that. I know that Marvel has a bunch of big names, but it's just HBO famously does that.
So right now the books are at the book 6 is going to open with two big not open because they have two big battles right away. The battle of Ice, which is what we just discussed with Stannis meeting those guys, and they're calling it the Battle of Fire, which is over in Meereen. Where Meereen is under siege, and Dany is still out in the Dothraki Sea, haven't been heard from. She's with Drogon only. The other
two battles. My guy FOMO actually brought up a good point. 2 battles, 2 trials. Trials also are happening too.
That's correct. You've got you got Cersei and
Marjorie too.
Marjorie, right?
Yeah.
Which I was so
upset. I was so upset she didn't have to do her walk of shame. I was so upset, that girl did. No, 2 battles, 2 trials, and like Ned said, we just covered the ice battle. Now let's move it over to the fire battle. What's different from the show? Blah blah blah. In the show, we have Daenerys stuck in Meereen. George is still stuck with Daenerys' story. I think that's what's holding him up.
Right.
Do you agree? That's really what this is. George
That's-
kind of wrote himself into a corner with the story with her.
Correct. I think he fell in love with the character of Daenerys and couldn't get her. He lingered too long with the internal
With the
politics
free-
of Marine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And and they couldn't get her back on the path back. She's still not on the path back.
And not only that, then he even doubled down on tying himself down over there. Ooh, that's a nice way to put it. The Marinese knot. He tie himself down there because he has the Ironborn headed over there. He has Dorian just showing up.
Yep.
He has himself stuck in Marine, which globally I think no one liked this story. They wanted her to come over as fast as possible.
Right. Not as fast as the show did, though. The show did it really
exactly.
quickly.
The show did it in about a 12 second fucking transition frame.
Yeah.
But I think, and then they decided they just want to throw in never mind. I don't even want to talk about that. But I think that's where George kind of got held up. But let's Ned set the table where we are over in Marine right now. Sir Barristan, everything going on.
Right. So it was in the show where Drogon attacks the fighters in the pit, and they're not about to kill Drogon, but they're attacking Drogon. She tries to calm Drogon down. Instead, she jumps on her back, and for the first time, I think it's on the show, it's probably the second time, but in the books, it's the first time she actually flies Drogon, and she flies him off, and he flies her out to his lair. So
when
city's in a ruin right now.
When I listened to that part in the books, me and my girlfriend rewinded it about 12, 15 times. I swear to God, it's the coolest
very great scene
in the books ever. That and it's one of the coolest scenes ever, and they did a good job with the dragons in the show. When Cersei or when Daenerys is about to talk to the slave lords, and you hear the dragon cry, and then he lands on the pyramid, like that stuff they killed.
I think there's no doubt that the show killed it from a visual perspective.
A CGI perspective.
It was just incredible. If you don't care about the story and you just want to watch, if you just want to see some Lord of the Rings porn,
that's exactly what
happens. That's what it
is. Fan servicing. I think
which is great, but that's something the books can go more in depth on. That I don't know.
But see, Tyrion shows up and he just misses seeing Daenerys, or he maybe sees it from a distance, but they don't meet, so they haven't even met yet. So she's gone, and Barristan the Bold is now still alive, by the way, and he's kind of holding the city together through the political parties and all the maneuverings. He finds he's not up to the task, and reluctantly, although I think personally he wanted to do it, he's under siege from the outside and from inside. So that's when they're gearing up for the battle, the upcoming battle against.
He's also
against a lot of
problems with the dragons that are still locked up.
Correct.
Another thing that's happening.
Free.
Another thing that's happening in Marine right now is Tyrion is with Penny, the female dwarf. Who that is a great story, because that is the first time Penny Penny. Well, it's semi-skip. So if you think Tyrion is with that slave company while that arena battle is going on,
right? And
in the books, you don't realize, but he's actually at the same thing as her, and that's actually the same scene.
That's what I'm saying.
He can see her through the dust and all that kind of stuff.
But they haven't met.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then we're dealing with the harpies over there right now. Our guy FOMO just brought up the fact that the arrest of her husband, the what was his name again? I can never say this guy's name.
I forgot his name too.
Yeah.
Again, portrayed completely differently on the show too. That was another one. The show actor didn't match the visual. Neither did the guy who played Darius Naharis. He didn't match him at all either.
But yeah, that kind of stuff is going on over there. So that leaves us to basically Cersei's scene of flying away into the Dothraki siege. You remember what Daenerys' husband was named? The guy from Marine. It's the hardest. Daros Zanda. Yeah, no, we can't think of it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, that's going to leave us off in Marine. So now we kind of set our battle of ice, our battle of fire. So let's Yeah, let's talk about a little bit about the conspiracies.
Right.
Oh, Hizdar. Thank you, FOMO. Thank you. Hizdar. Thank you. Oh my God, I can never those guys over there because I always say Zarl Zandaxis. Like I always say that name over.
He was in Karth.
And he was Karth. Let's do this. Let's get into some conspiracies. I think we covered a good amount about. And listen, this might go a little longer than everybody wants.
Yeah.
But we had fun talking about Game of Thrones, and we're gonna sit here with our guy FOMO. And we're gonna fucking talk about it for a bit here, so don't worry about time. Justin, if you get bored, you can leave. So Ned, what do you have for conspiracy wise? I know you did mention one thing about the magic versus the Citadel, and this is something I love getting into.
Correct. That's a big one. See, and we have to talk to Justin. So the conspiracy behind. On the Reddit chat groups and other chat groups is that behind the scenes, and it is apparent, and once you it's realized too that the Citadel, which is the source of all knowledge, right? It's like the center of learning for the entire continent, has always had an issue with magic. When things can't explain magic explains the unknown, and then science overwhelms the unknown with facts, right? So at this point in this type of medieval European history timeline, this is the dichotomy between education and religion. And although it's not religion in this case, it's actual magic.
Yeah.
And there are these obsidian, which doesn't really exist, candles that it's a type of glass that burn when magic is in the air, but don't burn if there's no magic.
And their goal is to kind of never have that goddamn candle burning.
Correct.
They don't want that candle burning.
Correct.
I think the biggest comparison, obviously, to the Faith of the Seven is modern Christianity. It's always compared to like a Greek pantheon type modern Christianity type deal where, a lot of people say they kind of try and silence, the witches and like that kind of stuff. They're always doing that kind of stuff.
But the dragons represented the biggest source of magic.
Oh yeah, dragons. I think historically are known as the biggest source of magic.
Correct.
I mean, other than the old gods. I mean, there's obviously everyone has to remember everything's broken down by ice and fire.
Correct.
There's one side of one thing and one side of the other thing, and I think the White Walkers basically represent the farthest force of magic on ice, and dragons are the farthest force of magic on fire.
Correct. And there is no magic in the air. The direwolves do appear, and they are magical creatures, but there's a discussion you can have if they're controlled by the Green Seer up in the north who's guiding Bran or not. But the fact is that all 5 of them, actually 6 direwolves, can warg with their respective Stark or Snow owner. That's the right word.
Yeah.
So that's magic to that. But you don't really find out until much later in the books. The dragons are born at the end of the first book, right?
Yes.
So in the last chapter, just like the show, the last chapter, Ned gets his head cut off. You're shocked. The next scene, it jumps to Daenerys and Drogon or Drogo has died, and she does
funeral.
Blood sacrifice at his funeral, and that brings about the rebirth of the dragons. And it's not
the
until
first time you officially see the fact that she's fireproof too.
Correct. Well, it's because she inadvertently performed a spell with the eggs on her husband and the fire, and also she sacrificed the woman, the Magi who kind of tried to bring Drogon back. So anyway, but you don't find out anything's really happening until I want to say the third book. In the third book, you're in the Citadel for a chapter, and it says the glass is burning again.
Yeah, it's burning again.
And it's like, what is, they're like, that means magic has been reborn.
And our guy FOMO here brings up a good point. So when I explain this story to my Game of Thrones to try to get people, when I try to get people to like this show, they're like, oh, I don't like magic and dragons and all this, and I always explain the show as in the story is about actually the fact that none of these people think magic is real, and it's a slow build of the fact that magic was real as fuck, and it was just eliminated by these by the Citadel, you find out how it's actually we'll call it cancel culture basically of magic.
And if you want to know the truth, though, I hate high fantasy. So when I first saw the show, I saw the show first, and I saw this. I saw the direwolves, which I thought I was watching an HBO medieval thing, series.
That's
then
why
I saw the direwolves, and I'm like,
points.
what the fuck are those?
I thought it was just Lord of the Rings ripoff. It was just like a bad like cash grab.
But then I watched it through. I'm like, oh, that was cool. And then of course, Nick's cut off was a big surprise. But then the dragons, I'm like, oh, what the fuck is going on here? Mm-hmm. And so then I saw it was based on books. So I actually picked up the first book. And I've never been a fan of high fantasy. Just for that reason, I think magic is stupid and the supernatural shit is dumb. But this shit is fucking great. These books are fucking awesome.
Well, that was my favorite part of and again, remember, we're just trying this episode to compare the books and the show. The books were nothing to me when I started watching this show. And then, I got into that world and I was like, oh my God, there's actually these books have been around since I think what was the first book written in 93?
Early
90s. This world
in
has
96.
been building.
Yep.
96. Yep. I'm sorry. This world has been building for so long that we've missed. And the fact that we were able to then dive into a series that has been around for that long, it's just fantastic. We were able to do that.
But Justin, so too, the last book was published in 2011.
I know.
Yeah.
And I did look it up. And this is really weird. So George R. R. Martin is a Jets fan and a Giants fan.
That is a psycho move.
That is, I don't know what to think about that.
That is an absolute psycho.
That is, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, I was actually following his blog until after every Patriots game, he would shit all over the Patriots. I'm like, I can't follow that.
Yeah, he really.
I'm like, I'd answer him, write the fucking books.
Which I think just prolongs him from writing the fucking books.
Yeah.
I think right now he's just trying to.
You can see the anger in FOMO's eyes. He's going 9 fucking years.
9 years. That's insane.
And it's like, so we think about the wait in between season 7 and 8 was 2 years. That felt like a million years. 9 years for us and I can't even say us book readers because I didn't care about. Well, I kind of did care about the books at that time, but it's been forever.
You said you got into the TV show first, right?
But
the TV show was
time to write those books. I mean, he didn't bang the first 5 books out either. I think between the
they were years
the second book there was 5 years. I think between the Clash of Kings,
fastest one I think was 2 and 3, because obviously 4 and 5 was obviously one book and then he split them.
Correct. And he was hoping to wrap it up after 3 books too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
So let's dive back into the Citadel versus Magic type deal, and that kind of goes right back to you brought this up, the Faith versus the Targaryens. Obviously throughout the beginning season, and then obviously until Daenerys' return, you deal with the Targaryen exile. Daenerys was sent over to Essos in exile because of what happened. Well, not even sent over there; she fled over there because of what happened to her brother and everything like that. So you're really dealing with the fact that the Faith really just wanted the fucking Targaryens out of there, and in due time, obviously, it was needed because they were going mad and everything like that. Did you know? And when I was researching this today, in the books, the Mad King never says burn them all.
No.
Yeah. I didn't know that. It's not that I didn't know that. Obviously, I've read the books, but I never realized oh my God, that scene is a foundation to, showing the Mad King for the first time, and that's not even said in the burn them all. That shit was not even seen.
But the real rift, or actually not the rift, but the Targaryens didn't really have a faith in Valyria. I'm not really sure about the religious history of them, but when they came over, they realized to win over the Andals, the people who had conquered and brought the Faith of the Seven with them. They were also in Old Town. So the Faith of the Seven did not have that big cathedral in, I forgot what it's called, but the Baelor's cathedral in King's Landing yet. So he went down after he already defeated everyone. He realized he still needed the small folk and the religious on his side. So he became a convert. But they never, and then he pledged to build a giant cathedral to them. Yeah. But they never accepted him or the Targaryens because of the incestuous marriages.
Yeah, the family.
The brother-sister marriages. Which, by the way, we paralleled in Egypt too, and during the reign of the Ptolemies.
That's another thing I love about this show. Everything has a parallel to it. Yeah. But that brings us to Bloodraven. Bloodraven basically is known historically to have been what was the driving force behind driving the Targaryens out of Westeros. They say it was, for people who don't know who Bloodraven is, he is a bastard son of Aegon V, I believe, right? The fat one, who had a bunch of
Henry VIII,
bastard
actually.
sons.
He was the
Had
Henry
a bunch
VIII.
of bastard sons and just legitimized all of his bastards, which caused the Blackfire Rebellion. It caused
Right.
it caused a fucking disaster. He's
Correct.
mostly compared to what, Henry VIII, I think, who did the same thing.
His father was Magor. Who was his father? Was it Magor? No. Who was his father?
Shit.
The one who legitimized. He on his
Yeah,
deathbed. He's more of the Henry VIII type. He just fucked everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that kind of led us to have Bloodraven. Bloodraven then ended up being a Hand of the King,
Right.
who was known to kind of be like a Littlefinger, Varys type character, where he wasn't the king, but he was pulling the strings.
Right.
He was the
Well,
chain.
then-
on the throne.
Yeah, he was the puppet master. He was the Steve Robinson of the.
Ooh, don't like that comparison. Oh, nope.
But,
and that's where we end the show.
But he's called Bloodraven. Tell him why. Because tell
But-
him why he's Bloodraven, John.
So he's Bloodraven because he has this scar over his what I believe it's his left eye.
He's an albino.
He's
and
an
he has
albino.
a birthmark. He has a wine stained birthmark on his.
Yes. So
it's pretty
he was Duncan Egg, the story, obviously. So Aegon, the last Aegon was Egg. He was like a good king, but by the time he became king, Egg banished Bloodraven to the Wall.
Right.
A lot of people think Bloodraven, served up at the Wall. I think he went to Eastwatch by the Sea, and he served over there as a commander over there. And then I believe they think he just disappeared, and a lot of people tie him to end up being he's actually the Night King. That's a big conspiracy that he's the Night King, or he is either the Night King or he is the Three-Eyed Raven.
He's the Three-Eyed Raven.
Yeah, a lot
He's
of
the
people
last
think he's the
Green
Three-Eyed Raven. There's a bunch. That's another conspiracy.
Well, the big
that
thing
I
is
love.
his name is when he first meets Bran. He says, Brandon Stark. I've been waiting to meet you, or waiting for you to get here. And he's like, what do I call you? And he goes, well, my name's Brandon too.
Yes.
Yes. So you
It's-
don't really
there's
know.
small
Also,
little
the fact
things
that-
in the book like that where you're just
His-
like, bing.
Yeah, and then also his appearance in the books is that he's actually, the tree is growing through him. He's so old.
Yes. Yeah.
And
He did a
and
semi
he
good
still has
job
like
with
a
that.
stain on his skull, that
Mhm.
the bone. So you don't put it together until later on the Duncan Egg series. We're like, okay, this is definitely.
Yeah. The Duncan Egg series has to be one of my favorite
That's
side.
great. I love that.
side
I wish you
ventures.
tried more of
loved
those.
it.
But
I originally consumed the Duncan Egg series through graphic novels. So
Yeah,
like I had
me
a
too.
cool way of seeing it. Well, I mean that was the only way it was out, and then they came out with what
Correct.
was that book called?
I got these like
the-
comic books things.
Yeah, they were basically. I actually have the whole first book is in graphic novels.
Yeah.
I have the whole first book
I
in
got that
graphic
too. Yeah,
novels.
that's
The goddamn, I can't think of what the that book was called. The Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Right.
That was a great book because
And
it was
the Mystery
basically
Knight, too.
all those brought together, and then there was actually some. And yeah, our guy FOMO brought up the fact that Trial of Seven that was in it. They had a full Trial of Seven.
Yeah, that was
in
good.
book.
Yeah.
You saw cool stuff like that. You kind of saw Westeros and the Seven Kingdoms in a kind of like you could consider like a medieval sense, because it was way before that.
Yeah.
So Bloodraven, another great conspiracy. Any other conspiracies that you or fan theories that you want to bring up?
No, I think that in the time we're already at like 50 minutes. We don't
Yeah.
want too much
So
longer.
I wanted to actually finish off the show, and you have it here. Our favorite characters. I want to go through this. I think what we'll do is we'll do our favorite characters by show. We'll do 2 favorite characters by show, 2 favorite characters by book, and then we'll do 2 least favorite characters. That work?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Justin, how about this? Give me your 2 favorite characters from the show.
So, this character is one of the characters that, like, looking back on. So, I was 17. I was going through puberty. Hormones raging all over the place. I loved Sansa Stark. I love.
Here we
What's
go.
her name? Who's
2-on-1 John. You're dead.
Who's the actor? But she's a terrible. She is not great in that movie.
And
in that TV show.
Shift.
When like you're watching like Joffrey just be a piece of shit, and she just kind of stands there and does nothing. So I would probably say I really, really, really did like Ned. It was, I want to say, one of the biggest holy shit moments. Like, I don't want to say like of my life.
Oh, when he got his
But
head cut off.
when he got his head chopped off, I remember I was in my room and I was watching it, and I was just like, oh, because it wasn't that last episode of the season.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I bet that was a dummy or that was something. And I kept thinking, like, wow, that was crazy how they, like, pretended to kill him.
so
And then
it's
the
funny,
next
that's-
season, they show his head on a pike, and I was like,
It's
oh,
funny
fuck, he's
that's why you
dead.
say that because, like, okay, so I was watching first season and Ned Stark gets his head, or Ned Stark gets. I always say Ned Stark now. Ned Stark gets his head cut off, and that was the first and only time I ever Googled, "Is this true?" I was like, "Did Ned Stark really get his fucking head cut off? Like, what happens to this?" And I will never. Honestly, that might have been the first time that I found out about the Red Wedding too, because like then I saw like, oh my god, Game of Thrones is actually a lot bigger than I ever realized. Like that was the first and only time I would ever Google what happened. Obviously, until then I read the books because I knew what was going to happen. But that was the first time I Googled it, and I was like, yo, did they just kill the main character in the first season? Like this show is fucking awesome.
I really like the Mountain, too. I'd probably say the Mountain.
Well,
Okay.
hold on. I was going to say you picked two from the Starks. So is that it, or
I think he just wanted to bang Sansa or something.
No, I just wanted to. I just want to bang Sansa. But then I found out she's like 12. Like in the book, she's like 12 or 13, and I'm like,
correct?
okay.
In the book, she's 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, yeah. So she's probably not the best. But no, I'd say probably Ned, and then I like the Mountain. Is it the Mountain or is it the other one
No.
who says "fuck the king"?
That the Hound.
Oh, that's
The Hound. I like the
little
Hound.
brother who's 6'6".
Yeah. No, he was the man.
Gregor.
When he just said "fuck the king," I was like, that was the dopest.
yeah. Fuck the king. That's a great fight. The Battle of King's Landing is a great fucking battle. The first time you see Wildfire, like I watched that episode over and over.
And you know what I really liked, real quick? I think it was one of the first. It might have been in the first season, but Tyrion gets knocked out for a fight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
he
that's,
wakes up,
yeah.
and I thought
Like
it was
he's
going
like-
to be one of those. I was like, this is going to be
Well,
one of
they-
the series where they're trying not to pay money for fights and these big
Well,
things, so they were just going to have.
It really was because this show, you have to think, is like a political show. It's not an action movie. It's kind of like they didn't give a shit about.
It
what
was a
happening
political
during-
show. It very
was.
much turned into
Exactly.
an action,
Exactly.
porn fest at near the end, where it was just, look at the dragon, take down the wall, and it's like, oh well, that's cool. Like it looks incredible, but if you look at it from like a show standpoint, you're like, well, is this really how it's going to end? Are they really going to put this guy as king and all this other stupid shit?
Yeah.
But no, I'd say my two favorite characters are probably the Hound and let's go Ned.
Yeah, but it's interesting you picked that because Ned is he's only in the first book, and he's only in the first
but he's
9
lovable
episodes.
throughout. He's lovable throughout because I can respect that pick because I hate the Starks. So like Ned Stark was the only Stark I liked. If he was around and all the rest of the show continued on as it would, I think it would have been a lot different if Ned Stark was around. So Justin, who are your two least favorite? Go ahead, Ned.
I was going to say the everyone loves the character of Ned Stark from the beginning, and they still do. But when you really look back, boy, was he stupid.
He also didn't get a chance for us to hate him. That's the thing. You die at your peak.
The North.
Well, for book readers, you do see the chance for it to actually hate him because you see all the mistakes he actually made because of his his loyalty, because of his because of all the good reasons. That's another thing about the books. They show you the flaws of being a good person too.
Correct.
Justin, who do you have for your least favorite?
I like Joffrey makes my skin boil. I mean, that's just kind of like an obvious one, but I think that was such a well-written character because like it's not even like a Draco where like you can see it was just like, oh, this little piss shit. You just want to fucking rip his throat out. I'd probably say Joffrey, and then I really wasn't I mean, Cersei's fine. I think she's more. I think I would have liked it more if I read the book and saw like the first person going through her head and everything like that.
Yeah, it gives you a whole different appreciation for the whole show.
I wasn't a big fan of just her character in the TV show. So
Ned, I'm going to give you, because our guy FOMO here, our biggest fan and potential new co-host, he brought up another one. But give me your two favorite, and then I'm going to ask you your two least favorite, and then your least favorite point of view character. I think that's a great question. Least favorite point of view character.
So we're talking books or show or both.
First one we're going to do your favorite because Justin only saw the show. We're going to do your two favorite book characters, two favorite show characters.
Okay. Favorite book characters are Stannis. I say it for some bizarre reasons, but I just like Stannis Baratheon. And I like a non-point of view character as Rob.
Okay.
I like Rob. In the books. In the show, I didn't like him as much. It was too stupid what happened to him. It was too much of a shortcut. But in the books, he's not a point of view character. George Martin has said he wishes he had fleshed him out more to make him a point of view character.
Yeah, that's
the
another
ending
thing.
still would have been the same, right?
Yeah,
But
his ending would have ended up.
Good for 16 years old.
Yeah,
He's
he
pretty
won
fucking
every
good.
battle he fought, other than getting married.
Again, though, he
which is
trusted
much-
too many people.
Yeah, pussy, fucking pussy, man.
Yeah.
So you gave me those were your two favorite show, right? Or were
Show.
those are your two favorite show?
No, I'm sorry. I said those are two favorite book
those are
characters.
books. Give me your two favorite show characters.
That would be why am I forgetting Stannis's hand? What the fuck?
Oh, the Onion.
Yes, yeah. What's his name?
What the Jesus Christ?
Fuck,
my mind can't remember this.
This would be great.
The Onion
Kirk will
Knight's
say, like, I can't remember the character's name, so fuck.
but yeah, no, he is a great.
He's
character.
a great book character too.
Sir
'Cause he
Davos.
Davos Seaforth, correct.
Yeah,
He's a great book character too. He's the one who's on his mission now to go to up to Skagos to see if Bran Stark and his direwolf are still there.
Yep.
But
yes.
it was
He's kind
great.
of
I like the
shifting
actor.
tides right now.
Yeah.
You know, he's in a transition period.
I like the actor who plays him, Liam
he's a great
Cunningham.
actor.
He's terrific.
He's a great actor.
And that influences my show favorites too. I like the actors who play him. Like, I fucking love Peter Dinklage. He did great as Tyrion, but they fucked Tyrion's character up in the last two. They made him the stupidest person in the Seven Kingdoms in the last two seasons.
Yeah.
In the books, he's still pretty fucking smart.
Mhm.
You know, he's playing everybody against each other. You know, he's playing his own game. But Peter Dinklage was great. You know, the two least favorites, I would have to say, I don't like Natalie Dormer. She's a smirker.
She is such a smirker. She's a side of the mouth smirker. I can't
And
even do
also
it.
in the books, as well as the show, but really in the show they sex everything up on HBO. But in the books, she is a fucking 3-time married power monger. I mean, she's very nice, superficially. But she married a guy whose sexuality was questionable just for the power. Then she got engaged to the next king for the power, and now she's taking the little brother. So I don't really like her character that much. I love her grandmother. I don't like her character that much, and I'm not a Natalie Dormer smirking used to piss me off. It's like, what's she smirking?
I'm gonna do my favorite two from the show. Obviously, my favorite character all time is Oberyn Martell. He's the fucking man. He gets his head crushed in by the mountain, and my girlfriend told me he didn't die that episode. Like she somehow tried to. I don't know what it was, but and then
I remember when I first saw that, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Get his head crushed by a man's hand. I can't rewatch the Viper in the Mountain episode. I cannot rewatch that episode because Oberyn Martell is one of the coolest characters. When it comes to war, I take the side of Dorne, and that whole line, that's one of the coolest.
They are
lines
badass
ever.
for war.
Yeah. The whole he has the patriarch. He just bangs anything he wants. He just has a bunch of kids anywhere, which is pretty cool. I mean, I guess that's cool if that's what you're into. But no, he's the man. My second favorite character in the shows is probably Tywin Lannister.
Good one.
Easily one of the coolest characters of Game of Thrones. One of the best lines of Game of Thrones. Lions don't care about the opinions of sheep.
Also because of the actor who played him perfectly.
Unbelievably.
Great. Yeah.
Yes.
Any man who says I am the king is no king.
I tweeted that out the other day. But yeah, no, that's a great line. He just has some great one-liners, and he's just he's a good shitty dad. He's like a good shitty, one of those dads he's a good dad because you're learning from him, but he's a shit dad because you didn't learn any love from him.
Yeah.
Which is why you died on a toilet taking a shit. My two favorite book characters
by your boy Martell. Oberyn supposedly poisoned, right?
Yeah. My two favorite book characters. One is Arya, just because of the Bravo stuff. Once you're in the House of Black and White over in Bravos, it's some of the coolest actual chapters I think of the books. Yeah. That's a slow book, so it's the only. My cat has narcolepsy. I can't say the word, but it just falls asleep randomly, and you should see it right now. But those are some of the coolest chapters of the books. just because you see like the tasks they make her do, the waif, all that stuff.
Right.
Easily, the Cat of the Canal. Thank you, FOMO. It's a
But you talk about the show or the books? Because are you mixing both? Cause
no. I'm on my two favorite of the books right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because in the book she's over there. She just getting there, you know. And then my second favorite probably is in the books. I would say Jaime Lannister, just because you get to see inside the mind of a fucking psychopathic Lannister, and the show does amazing job of this. Because you see the transition of
incredible redemption.
Yes,
so in the book,
incredible redemption story.
We're gonna lose Justin in this. So in the books, did you say you want to live it? You want to live in Dorne?
I love Dorne. I would rather live. I'd rather live in the Reach, though. I'd rather live in the Reach. The Reach is beautiful.
The Reach is also bountiful.
Is gorgeous. Yeah.
I always like White Harbor.
Oh, nice call.
White Harbor to me is like Bangor.
That's the South and the North. That's the South and the North. Yeah.
The way he describes it, I'm like, oh, it's like Bangor. You know, it's like a seaside community. Smells good. Yeah, the
Manderley. Yeah. The White Walrus.
Or this is gonna sound totally, because this is actually one of my favorite. He's too small to be considered a favorite character, but I love the elder brother in the book, who runs the Quiet Isle with all those monks.
Oh yeah.
That's the best fucking food. They've got all the fresh seafood chowders, and they got great meat and honey-based shit. And like they're all peaceful. He's an old badass because he was like a warrior who like gave it all up because he died on at Robert's battle, and they fished him out downriver, and I guess he found his faith, and he's been a monk ever since. But he doesn't look like a monk. Brienne describing like his hands look like they could break bones instead of prayer.
Well, who was supposed to play that character in the show? There was somebody that was supposed to be.
It was
the guy from Deadwood, right?
Yes.
That was supposed to be him.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was.
He did the character is supposed to be the Hound. It's supposed to be the dead Hound, the Gravedigger. Well, no.
Yep.
The
He's
Gravedigger is with the Hound. Correct.
No.
Yeah.
Brienne,
is that what it is?
Brienne notices the Hound's horse, which we know it's the Hound's horse in the stables, and then she notices a huge man with a shovel who seems to be digging something and limping. He's having, he's got the injuries, or he's healing. But he bends down to scratch a dog.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know who it is. She just sees him off in the distance.
So
I love that whole. And I love was it Septon Maribald? I think was his name.
That's what it was. Yeah.
What a great! And one of the best passages you can read. And they tried to cover it in the book, but in the show they didn't. But the Broken Man speech by Septon Maribald, which tells like how men go through battle and how they break.
That's a great scene in the show. And then like next scene you see him, he's hanging from a fucking burnt church.
They wouldn't have the elder brother fucked up people coming to the Quiet Isle.
Then my least favorite characters, books. Easily, this is obvious. Sansa is the worst in the book. Sansa sucks in the book. Her chapters suck. She's just whiny and she sucks. She's always talking about fucking lemon cakes and bullshit. Granted, by the end of the book, she's turning into a hard ass girl. But no, I can't stand her in the books, man. And then my second least favorite is maybe Melisandre. No, I can't say Melisandre. I would say then Samwell. His chapters are slow. They're just slow.
Yeah. Oh, he has chapters in the book?
Oh, yes. George compares himself mostly to Samwell.
He does.
And so he has chapters in the book, and they're pretty good. I mean, you get some good stuff out of them, but they're slow.
Sam is actually one of my least favorite point of view characters in the books because he doesn't seem to learn anything. He doesn't seem to grow or develop. In the show, of course, it's totally different. But in the he never loses weight. He always seems, I just didn't. I didn't like him.
He's just whiny. It's exactly what you think out of Samwell. Our guy FOMO brought up a good point. Melisandre's one chapter she has, amazing.
Yes, that was great.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. Okay, Melanie, so any last things, because we're at an hour and 5, and any last things you want to bring up? I know, guys. Listen, we are basically going to be doing this when Mike has to record. So hopefully we're able to do this again. I think next time what I kind of want to break down is a specific topic, something like the Dunk and Egg story or something like that. I think this was good to kind of just show the differences between the books and the show, at least in our opinions on where we know about the show. Kind of set a groundwork for you guys, for the 2 people that may be listening right now. But listen, like I said, we have fun doing this. But any last things you want to cover quick?
Nope, Justin, thanks for setting it up. Thanks anybody out there. Thanks all 3 of you people for
shout out my man FOMO.
FOMO. Listen, you can come on the show. We want
Who
you
is
on.
it?
I think it's Blind Advocate. He was the guy. He was the drunk guy that was on Mike and the Minifans the one time. But like, he's the guy who recommended that podcast to us.
I don't know, but he seems to know. I don't care who he is, but he seems to know a lot about Game of Thrones.
He was really smart when it comes to Game of Thrones. Like, I would love to have him on here, at least kind of give us a little.
Hey, he'd be better than me because I've got no clue what's going on.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll have me, you, Ned, and we'll have him hop on here and he could school us. Because listen, the guy knows what he's talking about, even though he's a drunk fool. I'm kidding, FOMO. I love you.
You love everybody.
No, we love you, man. You're our only fan tonight.
You love everybody.
I do. I do. I love
You like
everybody. We'll see you guys later. Thank you.
He likes DJK.